day 180 of the Ukrainian war map, also known as the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Chelsea here, and today is just another quick update as I take a bit of a simplified and down-to-earth approach to the happenings on the ground in Ukraine. Now, as always, I like to start off with some of the Russian military personnel losses. So we'll have this one loaded up here, and lost personnel currently sitting on 45,400. Now again, take it with a grain of salt. These are not exact figures, but we do have to work with something. But in particular, where it gets certainly a bit more precise is some of the military hardware losses on the Russian side. So you've got an additional 6 armored combat vehicles, which is nice to see, and an additional a whopping 7 Russian tank losses as well. So that's always huge. Handful of artillery and even 1 Russian chopper. So we'll move across to the map, and as we sometimes seem to do, we'll start on the outside of the Ukrainian borders to Russia, where this has already been fairly well reported, but a car bomb explosion in Moscow killed the daughter of Putin's supposed war architect. His name is Alexander Dugin, and this happened in the Moscow region there. It is much believed that the bomb was designed for Alexander Dugin instead of his daughter, even though she was a Russian politician who was an ultra-Russian nationalist and a supporter of the war in Ukraine. However, most importantly regarding this news topic is that Ukraine has come out in response to this, stating the following: that Ukraine had nothing to do with the murder of the daughter of Alexander Dugin, ideologist and of Russia's war. We are not a criminal state, unlike Russia. So basically, we have the political apparatus in Ukraine certainly saying they had nothing to do with it. Ukraine is certainly not afraid of taking out infrastructure, supply lines, and ammunition depots outside of Ukraine territory within Russia. But certainly it's not like their style to actually go for politicians in another country, unlike it certainly is for Russia. Now, there is a former Russian politician that stated that a Russian partisan group by the name of the National Republican Army was responsible for the attack. And he said that this attack opens a new page in Russian resistance to Putinism. And ultimately, to get rid of a dictator or autocracy like that of Russia, change has to come from the general populace from within the country to have any sort of long-term sustainable change and peace. Now I'll move across to Kiev, where it's really less news at this point. We have an upcoming Independence Day on the 24th. Of August, so exactly 6 months from the Russian invasion, and there will be a big parade in Kiev with captured and destroyed Russian vehicles. However, Kiev and wider Ukraine, for that matter, is bracing itself for an intensification of Russian missiles and artillery on the day. So they are being careful that this could indeed be quite a brutal target date for Russia, just because of the significance and meaning it has for Ukraine's Independence Day. I'll jump back outside of the country and have a look at Belarus, because it continues to be talked about a bit. But Russia has relocated some of their air defenses to Belarus, and there still remains a threat of airstrikes and missile attacks from the pro-Kremlin nation of Belarus. Probably ties in with that previous bit of information there with potential intensification of attacks on Kiev and the general area of Ukraine on Independence Day on the 24th of August. But I guess only time will tell on that one. Now we move across to Kharkiv. The Kharkiv mayor overnight reported that at least 3 rocket strikes hit the city district of Kyievsky, setting 2 buildings on fire. Now, the Security Service of Ukraine, also known as the SBU, have advised that only about 1 in 20 Russian missiles hit military installations or Ukrainian military sites. The rest of the missiles that reach their targets hit civilian sites, such as residential buildings and infrastructure. It appears Russia is using a great deal of their older and much less accurate Soviet-era artillery shells and rocket systems, and haven't modernized their equipment as much as it was believed that they had just prior to the entry of the war here. Now we move down to the Donbass area. So generally here, Russian forces have had some partial success in some areas, but Ukraine actually repels most offensives at the moment. But we'll start off with an explosions were reported at an ammunitions depot, again in the last 24-hour reporting period in Donetsk. So this is the Russian-occupied part of Donetsk, and we're not talking about Donetsk Oblast, we're talking about Donetsk, the city. So if I just zoom out and then zoom back in, there's a lot of things in the way. So it's a little bit to the eastern outskirts of the city, right around here near this this crossway of the highway there, that location. Also in the Donbass region, the location isn't fully determined as yet, but this is a quick photo of remains of a downed Russian Orlan-10 drone in the Donbass area around the east. So the inspected damage indicates it was taken down through electronic warfare means, which these Orlan drones seemed to be apparently somewhat vulnerable to. So that's a little bit of an interesting tidbit there. Now, if we zoom in a little bit further to Avdiivka, right here, Russian artillery is shelling pretty hard there at the moment, but no Russian advances made yet. In fact, if we just go back and forth between the days, we might see a small something, but no, not in that location at all. Now, Pisky, right next door almost to Avdiivka, is what I call an outer suburb of Donetsk, the city of Donetsk, that is. There as well, as you can see the proximity, it's pretty close. This little village has been talked about a lot, about 11 kilometers there. Got to close out of that. And I've lost it there. Basically, it still is at a bit of a standstill, with a partial takeover from the Russian forces about 2 weeks ago. But nothing has really changed much since here, so I'm pretty surprised by that. And moving on, just I guess on the topic of the Donbass. So Russia is finding it difficult to motivate and add auxiliary forces to its regular troops in the Donbass region. This is from the latest MOD British intelligence update. A reason that Russia is having this issue is that it has consistently classified its war with Ukraine as a special military operation, as we all know, which subsequently limits the state's powers of legal coercion. So this is an example of what happens when a country or dictator gets trapped in its own weird logic. Putin made it illegal to call the Ukraine invasion a war. You can't call it a war in Russia. You can actually go to jail for calling it a war there. Which also means Putin can't fully mobilize all of his troop resources like he could in the event of declaring it a war. So he's kind of trapped by his own logic and domestic rules of engagement thus far. Kind of like being in his own sort of a catch-22 that he created for himself. Perhaps he'll look for ways to change this, but it has been a whole bunch of months, really up to 6 months now, and he hasn't been able to do so thus far. We'll move across to the Nikopol region. Sadly enough, it's getting no reprieve from heavy shelling, not just in Nikopol, but the surrounding areas as well. That shelling is coming from Anahoda, which is of course the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant there. In fact, the Russian forces occupying the nuclear power plant are shelling from behind it, so they're using it as cover in a bit of a dick move. Again, to be honest, I keep calling it that, but that's what it is. Russian forces shelled a cemetery in Marnets, just above the river there on the other side of where the nuclear power plant is. Now, it's been also shelling civilian areas in the Nikopol region there too, but yeah, just really strange when they get non-military sites or installations that they reach with their shelling. We'll move across to Odessa. a bit of an interesting one here, I think. And excuse my inability to talk today. So in Odessa, 5 Russian caliber cruise missiles have been fired from the Black Sea at Odessa city there, or in the region. 2 were shot down by Ukrainian air defenses, and 3 hit agricultural areas. In this attack, Russia said it destroyed an ammunition depot containing HIMARS missiles, while Ukraine said it was actually just a hit of a granary, which is like a storehouse for threshed grain that's sort of completed. So 5 caliber cruise missiles were fired, 2 shot down, and 3 are questionable as to what they actually hit. And it's not the first time Russian caliber cruise missiles have been shot down by Ukrainian air defenses or just have seemed to have missed their mark. Quite remarkably, really. It happens a lot in the Zaporizhia Oblast and in the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast as well, and even up north in Kharkiv as well. I might have thought these caliber cruise missiles would have been more formidable, really. Now, we do know that a great deal of corruption is occurring at nearly every level of the Russian military. It's been well documented, due to the funneling of funds that are designed for equipment and R&D, so for research and development. But based on all the caliber missiles and their outcomes that I'm hearing of, I do wonder if during this R&D or research and development process that money was funneled out of these Russian military or missile programs, essentially causing these missiles in particular to essentially be not as effective or as precise as they are on paper, or at least on Russian paper where they say they're pretty good. Okay, moving across down to the last part of the map today, where Ukraine continues its offensive at military installations in the Russian-occupied peninsula of Crimea, right there. Russian defenses are certainly in full defense mode at the moment. And it somehow reminds me of Snake Island, the Ukrainian territory, or little island that Russia held since the beginning of the war. In fact, if we zoom in, it's right there. I'll zoom back out for a bit of context. And Russia was using it offensively until recently, then defensively. Then it lost it altogether around the end of June. I think it was the 30th of June there. The Russians that remained on the island had to flee. They just found it untenable to support that location so far away from their mainland or even their occupied mainland there. And truly, all in all, it is a pretty easy target from Odessa, which is its administrative region. So surely they couldn't have held it for too much longer anyway. Okay, let's move across to a bit of quick news for you guys. So President Zelensky says that no negotiations are possible if Russia tries Ukrainian soldiers in Mariupol. So in a video address, President Zelensky said that if an absurd and disgusting trial of Ukrainian soldiers takes place in Mariupol, it will eliminate the possibility of negotiation talks with Russia. He also went on to say Russia will shut itself out of the negotiations table. There will be no talks. Our country said everything it wanted. So this is where the balance of power seems to be shifting, and Zelensky seems to be aware of that with these words here. So we have the Ukrainian side with its increased militarization from NATO, with all of the hardware it's receiving, 4th generation war equipment, where they fight a 3rd generation plus Russian sort of Soviet era equipment style on the other side there. So yeah, less and less, it does appear that less and less Zelensky won't be looking to negotiate too much. But we'll see, things can change. Now, in more news, Russia partially closes its skies over 3 regions near Ukraine. Russian command has closed the skies in certain regions to the north, including the Russian city or region area of Belgorod, right up there. Ukraine has recently taken out ammo depots, supply lines, comms towers, you name it. They seem to have taken it out in that sort of northern area in Russian territory, not Russian control, but actual Russian Federation territory, forcing Russians to tighten up their control of their skies. Now, we'll round off this video with a little bit of a funny. I tend to like this one. So you'll see here, welcome to Ukraine. So to give you context, Ukrainian partisans appear to have hacked into the road sign or road signage system for the Crimean Bridge on the side connecting Russia with the Russian-occupied Ukrainian peninsula. So Russians driving into Crimea from Russia. I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing. Welcome to Ukraine. I just think that's great. That's really good. I saw videos a whole bunch of months ago of, I guess you could say, Ukrainian partisans, so not necessarily directly connected to the state, have this sort of a hacking outfit underground in fortified basements of sorts, doing DDoS attacks, doing all sorts of things to disrupt Russian communications effectively, and internet behemoths. But I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment, subscribe, hit that like button. As I say, show all those trolls in the comments your prevailing sentiment in support towards Ukraine. Hopefully you don't get involved with their arguments too much. It's probably not overly worth it. It can be fun, but it can be time consuming too. So yeah, I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. And yeah, thanks again.